How to start a creative hobby and find joy in making. Have you ever felt it? That little hum inside you, a quiet urge to make something, to create, to use your hands for something other than typing on a keyboard or scrolling through a phone. Maybe you see a beautiful painting, hear a simple melody on a guitar, or admire a handcrafted piece of pottery and a voice inside whispers, "I wish I could do that." For so many of us, that voice gets shut down almost immediately. We tell ourselves we're not the creative type, that we don't have time, or that it's a childish, unproductive thing to do. We get busy, we get serious, and we forget that the act of making is a fundamental human need. This book is a permission slip. It's a simple guide to silence that inner critic and listen to that quieter voice, the one that wants to play. We're not going to talk about becoming a world-famous artist or launching a business. We're going to talk about something far more important. Finding pure, simple joy in the act of making something with your own two hands and your own mind. This is your roadmap from "I wish I could" to "look what I did." Before we begin our journey, I have a simple question for you. Think back to when you were a child, before you learned to worry about being good at things. What was one thing you truly loved to make or do just for the fun of it? Was it drawing, building with blocks, making up stories, singing songs? Take a moment to remember that feeling. And if you're comfortable, please share that memory in the comments below. Reading about each other's lost joys is a beautiful way to begin. Chapter 1. The Permission Slip You Never Got. Let's begin by imagining something. I want you to picture a small child, maybe 5 or 6 years old, sitting on the floor. The carpet is a faded beige and sunlight is streaming in through the window, illuminating little dust motes dancing in the air. In front of this child is a big blank sheet of paper and a box of crayons, the kind with the sharpener built into the back. The smell of wax and paper fills the air. The child picks up a bright blue crayon and with total concentration draws a big wobbly circle. Then 2 more circles for eyes, a slightly lopsided line for a mouth, and a series of wild, jagged lines shooting out from the top of the circle. They pick up a green crayon and draw a long rectangle under the head, with 2 sticks coming out of the sides for arms. This, in their mind, is a perfect portrait of their parent. They are not worried if the proportions are correct. They are not concerned about perspective or shading. They are not creating a piece of art to be sold or judged. They are simply taking an idea from their mind and putting it onto paper. They are in a state of pure, unadulterated creation. They are playing, and in that moment, they are an artist in the truest sense of the word. Now I want you to ask yourself, where did that child go? For every single one of us, that child once existed. We all started our lives as creators. We built magnificent forts out of couch cushions. We directed epic dramas with our stuffed animals. And we sang songs with lyrics that made no sense but felt completely right. We were all born with this innate creative instinct. It's as fundamental to our nature as the need for food or sleep. So what happened? Where along the line did we trade that box of crayons for a spreadsheet? When did the joy of making something get replaced by the fear of not making it well enough? The answer is simple and a little bit sad. We were taught. We were taught that creativity is a special gift, a mysterious talent that only a select few people are born with. Maybe it was a well-meaning teacher who, trying to be helpful, corrected your drawing of a tree, saying, "Trees aren't purple, they're brown and green." Maybe it was a family member who laughed and said, "You certainly don't have the voice for singing." Or maybe it was simply the slow, creeping pressure of growing up, the message we absorb from society, that activities are only valuable if they are productive, if they lead to a good grade, a promotion, or a paycheck. Slowly but surely, we learn to put our creative instincts in a box, label it childish or frivolous, and store it away in the attic of our minds. We start to believe a powerful and destructive story, a story that goes like this: I am not a creative person. This chapter is your permission slip to throw that story in the trash. We are going to gently but firmly dismantle this great lie, brick by brick. We will expose it for what it is, a myth, a misunderstanding that has robbed millions of people of a source of profound joy and fulfillment. Because here is the first and most important truth of this entire book. Creativity is not a trait you either have or you don't. It is a skill you can learn, a muscle you can build, and a practice you can cultivate. It is your birthright, and it's time to claim it back. The first step in dismantling this myth is to redefine what creativity even means. We tend to have a very narrow view of it. We picture a painter in a loft studio splattered with paint, or a musician effortlessly composing a symphony. We think of the arts, but that's like saying that fitness only means running an Olympic marathon. It's an incredibly limited perspective. True creativity is much broader, much more common, and much more human than that. At its core, creativity is simply the act of connecting things in new ways. It's about solving problems, big or small. Think about your daily life. Have you ever been cooking dinner, realized you were missing a key ingredient, and figured out a clever substitution that ended up tasting amazing? That was an act of creativity. Have you ever had to pack a suitcase for a long trip and figured out a new way to fold your clothes to make everything fit perfectly? That was an act of creativity. Have you ever told a funny story to a friend, changing the timing or adding a little flourish to make them laugh harder? That was an act of creativity. Have you ever tried to explain a complex idea to a child using a simple analogy they could understand? That was a profound act of creativity. Our brains are literally wired for this. The human brain is a connection machine. It's constantly taking in new information and looking for ways to link it to what it already knows. This is how we learn, how we innovate, and how we adapt. A study published in the journal Neuroimage showed that when people were engaged in creative thinking tasks, there was increased connectivity between brain networks that don't typically work together. Specifically, the default mode network, which is active when we are daydreaming or imagining, starts communicating with the executive control network, which is focused on tasks and paying attention. It's like the dreamer and the doer in your brain are suddenly having a very productive conversation. This is not a special process reserved for artists. It is a fundamental function of a healthy human brain. So when you say, "I'm not a creative person," you're essentially saying, "I don't have a human brain." It's a statement that simply isn't true. You are creative. You have just been convinced that you are not. And perhaps you are a little out of practice, that's all. Let's think of it like a muscle. If you haven't gone to the gym in 10 years, you wouldn't walk in, try to lift a 200-pound weight, fail, and then declare, "I guess I'm just not a strong person." You would understand that your muscles have atrophied from lack of use. You would start with a small weight, something you can manage, and you would slowly and consistently build up your strength over time. Creativity is exactly the same. The part of your brain that makes new connections and plays with ideas is a muscle. If you haven't used it for a while, it will feel weak and awkward at first. Your initial attempts might feel clumsy. That's not a sign that you lack creativity. It's a sign that you are in the process of building it back up. Every time you try something new, every time you allow yourself to be a beginner, you are doing a rep at the creative gym. You are waking up those dormant neural pathways. So the very first step on this journey is a mental one. It requires no supplies, no time, and no skill. It only requires a small shift in your internal language. From this moment on, I want you to ban the phrase, "I'm not creative," from your vocabulary. When you hear that thought pop into your head, I want you to gently correct it. Replace it with something more accurate and compassionate, like, "I am a little out of practice with my creativity," or "I am in the process of relearning how to be creative." This isn't just empty positive thinking. It is a more truthful statement. It reframes the situation from a fixed, unchangeable identity to a flexible, growing skill. It changes the period at the end of the sentence into a comma, creating space for what comes next. You are not a finished product. You are a work in progress, and your creative life is just beginning. Now that we've laid the foundation and redefined what creativity is, let's talk about the specific villains that stand in our way. These are the practical and psychological barriers that keep that box of creative instincts locked away in the attic. I call them the 3 killers of creativity because their sole purpose is to stop you before you even begin. They are the tyranny of talent, the shortage of time, and the need for a point. Let's shine a bright light on each of them, understand how they work, and learn how to disarm them one by one. First, let's tackle the big one, the tyranny of talent. This is the idea that people who are good at creative things were simply born that way. We watch a gifted guitarist play a complex solo and we think, wow, they're so talented. We see a stunning photograph and say, that photographer has a real gift. We use this language of talent and gifts as if it's some kind of magical inheritance. And in doing so, we create a massive chasm between them and us. They have it, and we don't. This belief is incredibly convenient because it lets us off the hook. If we don't have the gift, then there's no point in even trying, right? Why bother struggling to learn a few chords on a guitar when someone like Jimi Hendrix was born a prodigy? Well, this entire narrative is a harmful illusion. It's what I like to call the iceberg problem. When we see a master at their craft, we are only seeing the tiny tip of the iceberg that pokes above the water. We see the effortless performance, the beautiful final product. What we don't see is the massive hidden bulk of the iceberg beneath the surface. We don't see the 10,000 hours of practice. We don't see the thousands of failed attempts, the frustrating plateaus, the moments of wanting to quit, the boring, repetitive exercises, the bad drawings, the terrible first drafts, the out-of-tune notes. We don't see the work. We only see the magic, and we mistake the work for magic. The author and researcher Angela Duckworth, in her groundbreaking book Grit, makes a powerful case for the importance of passion and perseverance over innate talent. Her research has shown time and again that high achievers in any field, from military leaders to champion athletes to world-class artists, share one key characteristic: grit. It's the tendency to stick with your long-term goals, to not give up in the face of failure. As she puts it, effort counts twice. She proposes two simple equations: talent times effort equals skill, and skill times effort equals achievement. Notice that effort is a factor in both equations. Your natural aptitude might determine how quickly you pick something up initially, but it is your sustained effort over time that builds real skill and leads to meaningful accomplishment. Let's re-examine the story of a prodigy. Consider Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, perhaps the most famous example of a born genius in history. Yes, he was composing music at an incredibly young age, but what is often left out of the story is that his father, Leopold, was a renowned composer and a highly demanding music teacher who started drilling him on music theory and practice from the age of 3. By the time Mozart was creating his first celebrated masterpieces, he had already clocked more deliberate practice hours than most professional musicians do in a lifetime. Was he born with a remarkable aptitude for music? Almost certainly. But it was the relentless, focused work that forged that aptitude into genius. So what does this mean for you? It means you must stop comparing your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. When you see someone's beautiful pottery on social media, you are seeing their chapter 20. You are not seeing their chapter 1, which was likely a lopsided, cracked, and frankly ugly little bowl that they probably threw back into the clay pile. To overcome the tyranny of talent, you must completely reframe your understanding of it. Talent is not a gift. Talent is accumulated practice. The person you admire is not a genius. They are a master of showing up. They are someone who respected the process enough to be a clumsy beginner and stick with it. And that is something you can do too. You have the power to show up. You have the power to be a beginner. In fact, embracing your status as a beginner is a superpower. A beginner has no expectations to live up to. A beginner has the freedom to make mistakes. A beginner's only job is to be curious and to try. So, let go of the need to be talented. Instead, embrace the desire to be persistent. The second killer of creativity is the shortage of time. This is perhaps the most common and relatable excuse of them all. We are busy. We have jobs, families, chores, errands, and endless obligations. Our calendars are packed, and our to-do lists are a mile long. When we think about starting a hobby, our brain immediately throws up a red flag. When would I possibly have time for that? We imagine needing a huge, uninterrupted block of 3 or 4 hours to really get into it. And since those blocks don't exist in our lives, we conclude that the hobby is impossible. This is a trap, and it's based on a flawed premise. The all-or-nothing approach to time is just as destructive as the all-or-nothing approach to talent. You do not need a 4-hour block of time to cultivate a creative practice. In fact, for a beginner, a long block of time can be incredibly intimidating. The pressure to make that time productive can be paralyzing. The secret to overcoming the time barrier is to stop looking for big, empty spaces in your schedule and start looking for the small, overlooked pockets of time that already exist. I call this time confetti. Think about your day. How long do you wait for the coffee to brew in the morning? 3 minutes? How long do you sit in your car after you've parked at work, scrolling on your phone before you go in? 5 minutes? What about the 15 minutes you spend waiting for your pasta water to boil? Or the 10 minutes before you fall asleep at night when you're just aimlessly browsing the internet? These are all pieces of time confetti. Individually, they seem insignificant, but when you start to gather them, they add up to something substantial. Let's do some quick math. If you were to find just 15 minutes a day to dedicate to a creative practice, that might not sound like much, but 15 minutes a day is 1 hour and 45 minutes a week. That's over 7 hours a month, and it's over 90 hours a year. Can you imagine what you could learn or create with 90 focused hours? You could learn the basic chords on a guitar. You could fill a sketchbook with drawings. You could write several short stories. You could learn the fundamentals of a new language. You could knit a whole scarf. The power is not in the length of a single session, but in the consistency of showing up, even for a few minutes at a time. The writer James Clear, in his book Atomic Habits, introduces a concept called the 2-minute rule. The rule states that when you start a new habit, it should take less than 2 minutes to do. The idea is to make starting so easy that you can't say no. You don't set a goal to write a novel. You set a goal to write 1 sentence. You don't aim to learn the guitar. You aim to take the guitar out of its case. This principle is perfectly suited for a new creative hobby. Your goal isn't paint for an hour. Your goal is put 1 dab of paint on a piece of paper. The point is to make the act of starting frictionless. Often, once you've taken that tiny first step, you'll find you want to continue for another 5, 10, or even 15 minutes. But even if you don't, you have still won. You have kept the promise to yourself. You have reinforced the identity of someone who engages in their creative practice. So your task is to become a detective of your own time. For the next few days, pay close attention to your daily rhythm. Where are the little gaps? Where is the time confetti? Could you wake up 15 minutes earlier? Could you take a 15-minute break in the middle of the day away from a screen? Could you set a timer and put your phone in another room for a short period in the evening? It's not about finding time. It's about making time. It's about recognizing that your well-being and joy are important enough to claim a small piece of your day. You deserve those 15 minutes. They are not a luxury. They are a necessity for a balanced and fulfilling life. Stop waiting for the perfect, uninterrupted afternoon. It will never arrive. Instead, start embracing the imperfect, interrupted, but completely real 15 minutes that are waiting for you today. The third and final killer of creativity is the need for a point. This is the insidious voice of our hyper-productive culture whispering in our ear, "What's the point of doing that?" If you start painting, it asks, "Are you going to sell your paintings?" If you start writing, it asks, "Are you trying to get published?" If you start knitting, it asks, "Are you going to open an online shop?" This mindset assumes that an activity is only worthwhile if it produces a tangible, external result, usually a financial one. It turns every potential joy into a potential side hustle. It poisons the well of play by injecting the pressure of performance and productivity. This is a deeply damaging way to live. When you demand that your hobby have a point, you rob it of its primary and most powerful purpose, the simple intrinsic joy of the act itself. The point of painting is the feeling of a brush moving across a canvas. The point of playing the piano is the vibration of the notes under your fingertips. The point of writing is the magic of finding the perfect word. The point is not the product. The point is the process. There is a growing body of scientific evidence that supports the profound benefits of engaging in hobbies for their own sake. These are often called restorative or mastery experiences. A fascinating study published in the Journal of Occupational and Organizational Psychology followed several hundred people over a period of time. It found that employees who engaged in a creative hobby outside of work were not only better at recovering from the stresses of their job, but they also demonstrated higher levels of creativity and problem-solving in their professional roles. Think about what that means. The pointless act of doodling in a sketchbook or learning a new song on the ukulele was actually making these individuals better at their serious work. How does this work? On a biological level, when we are absorbed in a creative activity we enjoy, our brains and bodies shift gears. Our levels of cortisol, the primary stress hormone, begin to decrease. At the same time, our brains release dopamine, a neurotransmitter associated with pleasure and reward. This isn't the quick-hit, addictive dopamine rush you get from a social media notification. This is a more sustained, satisfying feeling that comes from engagement and focus. It's a state of being that psychologists call flow. Flow, a concept popularized by psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi, is that magical state of complete absorption in an activity. It's when you're so focused on what you're doing that your sense of self, your worries, and even your perception of time seem to melt away. It's a state of active meditation. You can't achieve a flow state if you are constantly judging your own work or worrying about the outcome. You can only get there by immersing yourself fully in the process. This is the true point of a creative hobby. The point is to access a state of flow. The point is to give your anxious, overstimulated mind a rest. The point is to experience a kind of joy that is not dependent on anyone else's approval or validation. It is a joy that you create for yourself, by yourself. So, how do you fight back against the need for a point? You do it by making a conscious and deliberate choice to be unproductive. You give yourself permission to do something simply because it feels good, because it's interesting, or because it makes you curious. You declare your creative time a no-work zone. This is not your side hustle. This is not for your resume. This is your sanctuary. One powerful way to do this is to set an intention before you begin. Before you pick up your sketchbook or your guitar, take a deep breath and say to yourself, the only goal for the next 15 minutes is to enjoy the process. There is no other point. You might even choose to create things that have no possibility of being a final product. You could fill a page with random scribbles just to feel the pen move. You could play random notes on an instrument just to hear the sounds. You could write a paragraph of nonsense words just to feel your fingers on the keyboard. This is an act of rebellion against the tyranny of productivity. It is a radical act of self-care. It's you telling yourself that your joy matters, independent of any outcome. We have now faced the three killers of creativity. We have understood that talent is just practice in disguise, that time can be found in small, consistent pockets, and that the true point of a hobby is the joy of the process itself. We have cleared the mental clutter that was blocking the path. The door to your creative self is now unlocked. All that's left is to take the first gentle step inside. This brings us to your very first assignment on this journey. It's simple, it's private, and it's free of all pressure. I call it the Curiosity Inventory. The goal of this exercise is not to choose your new hobby. The goal is simply to reawaken your sense of curiosity and wonder. For a little while, I want you to become an archaeologist of your own interests, digging up the things that genuinely spark a flicker of excitement in you, no matter how small or silly they may seem. Find a quiet moment, perhaps with a cup of tea or coffee. Take out a piece of paper and a pen or open a new document on your computer. I want you to title it, My Curiosity Inventory. Now, we are just going to brainstorm. There are no bad answers here. The only rule is no judgment. Don't worry about whether you would be good at something, whether you have time for it or whether it's a cool hobby. Just write down anything that comes to mind in response to the following prompts. First, travel back in time. Go back to that child on the floor with the crayons. What did you love to do when you were a kid? Did you love building things with Legos? Did you spend hours making elaborate mud pies in the backyard? Did you write stories or put on plays? Did you love to finger paint? Did you collect rocks or leaves? Write it all down. Second, think about what you consume. When you are scrolling online or watching videos, what topics do you find yourself falling down a rabbit hole with? Is it videos of people restoring old furniture? Is it cooking tutorials? Is it people playing video games or creating digital art? Is it fashion or graphic design or people who build tiny houses? What you choose to watch in your downtime is a powerful clue to where your interests lie. Third, consider what you admire in others. When you see something that someone else has made, What fills you with a little pang of envy or a whisper of, "I wish I could do that"? Is it a friend's hand-knitted sweater, a beautiful photograph on a wall, a well-tended garden, a delicious home-baked loaf of bread, a piece of music someone wrote? That feeling of admiration is your curiosity calling out to you. Fourth, take a mental walk through a store. It could be a craft store, a hardware store, a bookstore, or a kitchen supply store. Which aisle do you find yourself lingering in? Are you drawn to the vibrant colors of the yarn and fabric? Do you love the smell of the lumber aisle? Do you find yourself flipping through beautiful cookbooks or graphic novels? Where does your body naturally lead you? Take as much time as you need for this. Let the list be long and messy and strange. It might include things like learning calligraphy, making candles, urban sketching, baking sourdough, learning to juggle, podcasting, arranging flowers, or fixing an old clock. Again, we are not choosing. We are only looking. We are opening our eyes to the world of possibilities. We are gathering clues. When you're finished, read over your list. Don't analyze it too deeply. Just sit with it for a moment. This list is a map of your own unique interests. It is the evidence, in your own handwriting, that you are not a person devoid of creative impulse. You are a person filled with curiosities, a person with a rich inner world of things that spark your interest. This list is the proof. It is your starting point, and it is the tangible result of you taking your permission slip and finally officially giving yourself the chance to begin. You have taken the first and most important step. You have decided to listen to that quiet whisper inside you, and in the next chapter, we will learn how to turn that whisper into a conversation. Chapter 2. The Creative Compass. In the last chapter, we did some essential groundwork. We gave ourselves permission. We took the heavy, restrictive label of not a creative person, looked it square in the eye, and saw it for what it was. A story, and not a very true one. You ended that chapter by creating your curiosity inventory, a beautiful and personal map of the things that spark a little light in your mind. If you look at that list now, you might feel a mix of excitement and perhaps a little bit of overwhelm. It's like standing at a crossroads with a dozen different paths leading into a dozen different forests, each one beautiful and mysterious. Which path do you take? How do you possibly choose? This is where many people get stuck. They wait for a sign. They wait for a lightning bolt of inspiration to strike them, for one of the items on their list to suddenly start glowing with a heavenly light, declaring itself as the one. They believe that choosing a hobby is like finding a soulmate, a perfect match that they will love passionately for the rest of their lives. And because the pressure to find that one perfect thing is so immense, they end up choosing nothing at all. They remain at the crossroads, paralyzed by possibility, until the sun goes down and they simply turn around and go home. We are not going to do that. This chapter is your compass. It's a tool to help you navigate that crossroads, but it doesn't work by pointing to a single, true north. Instead, it's a special kind of compass that helps you understand the landscape of your own personality, your own needs, and your own life. We are going to let go of the idea of finding the perfect hobby for life. Instead, our goal is much simpler, much gentler, and much more achievable. We are going to choose one single path to walk down for a little while, just to see what it's like. I want you to think of this process not like a marriage proposal, but like a food truck festival. Imagine you're at a huge, bustling park on a sunny afternoon. The air is filled with amazing smells, sizzling onions, sweet pastries, exotic spices. There are dozens of colorful trucks lined up. One is selling gourmet tacos, another is selling wood-fired pizza. There's a truck for noodles, one for crepes, one for barbecue. You would never walk up to the very first truck, the taco truck, and think to yourself, I must decide right now if I am a taco person for the rest of my life. If I choose tacos, does that mean I can never have pizza again? What if I choose wrong? What if the noodle truck would have brought me more happiness? Of course not. That would be absurd. What would you do? You'd walk around. You'd look at the menus. You might get a single taco to try it. You'd sample things. You'd see what you're in the mood for today. You are not making a lifelong commitment to a single food. You are simply choosing what to have for lunch. Choosing a creative hobby to start with is exactly the same. We are not choosing your creative identity for all of eternity. We are just picking a single taco to try. If you love it, great. You can get another one next time. If you don't, that's also great. You've learned something about your own taste. Now you know you'd rather try the pizza. The only mistake you can make at the food truck festival is to stand in the middle of the park, so overwhelmed by the choices that you starve. So let's become creativity detectives. Let's start gathering clues that will lead us to a good first sample, a good first taco. We're going to do this by looking at your curiosity inventory through 3 distinct lenses. These lenses will help you filter your list, not to eliminate options, but to better understand them and see which ones might be the best fit for you right here, right now. These lenses are 1. The hands, the head, or the heart. 2. The energy factor, recharge or release. And 3. The barrier to entry, time, space, and money. Let's begin with the first lens, the hands, the head, or the heart. Most creative hobbies tend to be primarily centered in one of these 3 domains. This isn't a rigid scientific classification, but rather a way of thinking about the feeling and the core experience of the activity. By understanding which of these domains you feel most drawn to at this point in your life, you can narrow down your choices significantly. First, let's talk about hobbies of the hands. These are the tactile, physical, and sensory pursuits. This is for people who feel an urge to engage with the physical world, to shape and manipulate actual materials. In our increasingly digital lives, where we spend so much of our time tapping on glass screens and living in the world of abstract information, there is a deep, primal satisfaction that comes from making something tangible. It's a way of grounding ourselves, of remembering that we have bodies and that we exist in a physical reality. When you work with your hands, you engage all your senses. Think about woodworking. It's not just a visual activity, it's the smell of the freshly cut pine or cedar. It's the rough texture of the wood before you sand it, and the impossible smoothness after. It's the satisfying heft of a hammer in your hand, the vibration you feel through your arm as you drive a nail. Or think about baking. It's the magical transformation of simple ingredients, flour, water, yeast, into something alive. It's the feeling of kneading dough, the rhythmic push and fold, the way it changes from a shaggy mess into a smooth, elastic ball. It's the warmth of the oven, the incredible aroma that fills your entire home, and finally, the taste of a warm slice of bread that you brought into existence. Hobbies of the hands are vast and varied. They include things like knitting, crochet, and sewing, where the repetitive, rhythmic motions can be incredibly meditative. They include pottery and ceramics, the messy, earthy joy of taking a lump of clay and forming it into a vessel on a spinning wheel. They include gardening, the slow and patient act of nurturing life from a tiny seed, feeling the soil on your fingers, and connecting with the cycles of nature. It could be jewelry making, calligraphy, bookbinding, candle making, or even repairing an old bicycle. If your life feels very screen-based, abstract, and disconnected, a hobby of the hands might be exactly what your soul is craving. It's a direct antidote to the digital haze. A real-world study from 2016, often cited as the Knit for Peace study, surveyed thousands of knitters and found that a significant majority reported knitting made them feel happier and calmer. The repetitive motions are thought to induce a relaxation response in the body, similar to meditation, lowering heart rate and blood pressure. Working with your hands forces you to be present. You can't be worrying about an email from your boss when you're trying to make a precise cut with a saw or count your stitches on a knitting needle. You are here, now, in this moment, with this material. If this sounds appealing to you, look at your curiosity inventory. Which items fall into this category? Circle them. And if you want to take a small test drive of a hands-on hobby, you could start incredibly simply. You don't need a pottery wheel or a full workshop. Go to a craft store and buy a small block of air-dry clay and just see what it feels like to shape something with your hands. It will probably look lumpy and childish, and that is absolutely perfect. The goal is just to feel it. Next, let's look through the lens of the head. These are the intellectual, digital, or conceptual hobbies. These pursuits are for people who love structure, logic, language, and building worlds out of pure thought. If the hobbies of the hands are about engaging with the physical world, the hobbies of the head are about creating and organizing new worlds within the mind or the computer. This isn't to say they aren't expressive or beautiful, but their primary medium is ideas, not materials. Think about creative writing. It begins with nothing but a blank page and a blinking cursor. From that emptiness, you can build entire universes. You can invent characters with rich inner lives. You can craft intricate plots. You can explore the most profound human emotions. The tools are simple, just the 26 letters of the alphabet, but the possibilities are infinite. The joy is in finding the perfect word, in constructing a sentence that sings, in creating a story that feels true. Or consider the world of music production. With modern software, your computer becomes an orchestra. You can layer drum beats, create bass lines, write melodies with digital synthesizers, and mix them all together into a complex and beautiful tapestry of sound. It's a deeply creative act that is equal parts artistry and technical engineering. Hobbies of the head include things like coding, where you use the precise language of logic to build a website, an app, or a simple game. It's a form of problem solving that can be incredibly satisfying. It includes learning a new language, which is like discovering a secret key that unlocks a whole new way of thinking and a whole new culture. It can be digital art or graphic design, using software to draw, paint, and create visual compositions. It could be learning chess, studying philosophy, or designing tabletop games. These are hobbies that challenge your mind, that delight in patterns, and that find beauty in structure. For some people, particularly those whose day jobs are very physical or chaotic, a hobby of the head can be a wonderful escape. It offers a sense of order, control, and mental clarity. It provides a space where you can build something complex and elegant, governed by rules that you understand and set for yourself. Research in the field of cognitive psychology suggests that engaging in mentally challenging hobbies like learning a new language or a complex game can build something called cognitive reserve. This essentially means you are building a stronger, more flexible brain that may be more resilient to age-related decline. You are literally exercising your mind in the same way you would exercise your body. If this sounds like you, scan your curiosity inventory for hobbies that fit this description. Perhaps it's writing poetry, or learning Python, or making electronic music. Circle them. For a simple test drive, you can start with zero cost. Open a free account on a platform like Duolingo and spend 15 minutes with a new language. Download a free music-making app like BandLab on your phone and just play around with some drum loops. Open a blank document and try to write a 200-word description of the room you're in, focusing on all the sensory details. The goal isn't to be a genius, but simply to see how it feels to play with ideas as your primary material. Finally, let's look through the lens of the heart. These are the expressive, emotional, and often performative hobbies. These are for people who feel a deep need to express an inner feeling, to connect with others on an emotional level, and to put themselves out there in a more vulnerable way. If hobbies of the hands are about making things and hobbies of the head are about organizing ideas, hobbies of the heart are about sharing emotion. Think about learning to play an instrument, like the guitar or the piano. At first, it's a very technical hands and head activity of learning chords and scales, but the ultimate goal is to play a piece of music that makes you, and potentially others, feel something. It's about translating the abstract emotion of a song through your own body, through your own fingers, and out into the world. Or think about singing. Your body is the instrument. It is one of the most direct and vulnerable forms of self-expression we have. When you sing, you are literally sharing your breath, your vibration, with the world. Hobbies of the heart include things like dancing, where you express emotion through movement and rhythm. It could be improvisational theater, the thrilling on-the-spot act of creating a scene and a story collaboratively with others. It could be stand-up comedy, the art of taking your own observations and anxieties and turning them into laughter. It could be photography, where the goal is not just to document a scene but to capture a mood, a feeling, a moment of fleeting beauty. These hobbies are often about connection, either with an audience, with a collaborator, or with the deepest parts of your own emotional landscape. Engaging in these hobbies can be scary. They require a certain amount of courage because they often involve the risk of being seen or heard by others. but the rewards can be immense. Expressing our emotions in a constructive way is vital for our mental health. Bottling up feelings can lead to anxiety and depression. A creative outlet of the heart is like a safety valve. It allows you to process and release emotions in a way that is healthy and beautiful. Studies on the benefits of things like dance therapy and music therapy have shown they can significantly reduce symptoms of anxiety and improve overall mood. It's a way of telling your own story, literally or metaphorically, and feeling witnessed. If this resonates with you, if you feel you have a lot of emotion bubbling under the surface that needs a voice, look for those hobbies on your list. Learning the ukulele, taking an acting class, singing lessons, circle them. A safe and simple test drive for a hobby of the heart could be to find a karaoke version of a song you love on YouTube, go into your car or a room by yourself, and just sing it at the top of your lungs. No one has to hear you, the point is just to feel what it's like to let your voice out. Now, take a look at your list with all the circles you've made. You might find you're drawn heavily to one category, or maybe you have a mix. This isn't about making a final choice, it's about understanding your own inclinations. Are you craving the tangible, the intellectual, or the emotional? This is the first layer of our compass. Now we move to the second lens, the energy factor. This is a much simpler but equally important question. Are you looking for a hobby to help you recharge, or one to help you release? Think about your typical day. When you get to the end of it, what state are you usually in? Are you mentally frazzled, overstimulated, and craving peace and quiet? Or are you filled with restless, pent-up energy, feeling fidgety and needing an outlet? The best hobby for you right now is one that provides the antidote to your daily state. A recharge hobby is one that is calming, meditative, and focuses your mind. These are quiet pursuits that help you slow down your breathing and your thoughts. They often involve repetitive, rhythmic motions or intense, quiet focus. Think of watercolor painting, the gentle way the pigment spreads in the water. Think of calligraphy, the slow, deliberate strokes of the pen. Think of knitting, the steady click-clack of the needles. Think of meticulously building a model ship, or the quiet focus of hand sewing. These are hobbies that soothe a frayed nervous system. They are a warm bath for a busy brain. If your job is chaotic, high stress, and involves dealing with people all day, a recharge hobby might be the sanctuary you need. A release hobby, on the other hand, is one that is physical, energetic, and cathartic. These are activities that get you into your body and allow you to work out frustration, stress, or excitement. Think about drumming. It's loud, it's physical, it's a full-body experience that allows you to literally beat out your feelings on a drum kit. Think of woodworking that involves sawing, hammering, or sanding, turning your physical energy into a tangible object. Think of throwing pottery on a wheel, which requires a surprising amount of strength and core engagement. It could be a high-energy dance class, or even something more intense like blacksmithing. These are hobbies that can take a ball of anxious or angry energy and transform it into something productive and satisfying. If your job is sedentary, involves sitting at a desk all day, and leaves you feeling sluggish and restless, a release hobby might be the perfect way to shake off the dust. Of course, many hobbies have elements of both. Woodworking can be a release when you're sawing, and a recharge when you're doing detailed carving. But the key is to ask yourself, what is the primary feeling I am seeking? Do I need to quiet down, or do I need to let it all out? Look at the items you circled on your list. Next to each one, put an R for recharge or an L for release. This will give you another layer of clarity. If you are desperately craving peace, maybe that drumming class isn't the best place to start, even if it seems cool. Perhaps the calligraphy class is a better first step. Now we come to our third and final lens, and it's the most practical one of all, the barrier to entry. This involves asking 3 blunt questions about any potential hobby. How much time does it take? How much space does it require? And how much money does it cost to get started? Being brutally honest about your practical limitations is not a sign of failure. It is a sign of wisdom. Choosing a hobby that fits your actual life, not the life you wish you had, is the single greatest predictor of whether you will stick with it. Let's start with money. Some hobbies are incredibly cheap to start, while others require a significant financial investment. We can put them into 3 rough categories. Low-cost hobbies are things you can start for under $20 or even for free. Sketching requires a pencil and paper. Writing requires a free program like Google Docs. Singing requires nothing but your own voice. Urban sketching just needs a cheap sketchbook and a pen. You can learn to meditate or do yoga from free videos online. Mid-cost hobbies might require an initial investment of $50 to a couple $100. This could be a beginner acoustic guitar or a ukulele. It could be a starter set of acrylic paints, brushes, and a few canvases. It could be a good set of knitting needles and a few skeins of nice yarn. This is an accessible range for most people, but it still requires some thought. High-cost hobbies are those that require a significant upfront investment in tools or gear. Think of professional photography, where a good camera body and a single lens can cost thousands. Think of woodworking, where you can quickly spend a fortune on saws, sanders, and other power tools. Think of oil painting, with its expensive pigments, solvents, and canvases. Or something like being a DJ, which requires turntables, a mixer, and speakers. Here is the most important piece of advice in this section. No matter what your ultimate interest is, always start with the absolute cheapest possible version of that hobby. The goal is to lower the barrier to entry so you can just get started. Do you dream of being a great oil painter? Fantastic. Start with a $10 set of watercolors or a $20 set of acrylics. The principles of color, composition, and light are the same. Learn those first before you invest hundreds in oil paints. Do you want to be a master woodworker with a full shop? Wonderful. Start with a $15 whittling knife and a block of basswood. Learn how the grain of wood feels, how it cuts, how it responds to a blade. Do you want to produce complex electronic music? Amazing. Start with a free app on your phone. Learn the basics of rhythm and melody. You can always upgrade your tools later once you have confirmed that you actually enjoy the process. Don't use expensive gear as an excuse not to start. Start cheap. Start small. Next, let's talk about space. Like money, this is a real-world constraint we have to respect. You may dream of taking up pottery, but if you live in a tiny studio apartment, a potter's wheel and a kiln are probably not a realistic option right now. Again, this doesn't mean you can't pursue the interest. It just means you need to find a version of it that fits your space. Instead of a pottery wheel, you could start with a small kit for hand building with clay on your kitchen table. Instead of large-scale oil painting, you could start with a small sketchbook you can take with you anywhere. The key here is to challenge the belief that you need a dedicated studio to be creative. You don't. You just need a creative nook. This can be a small corner of a room, a tiny desk, or even just a specific chair. We will talk more in the next chapter about how to set this space up. But for now, as you look at your list, just ask a simple question. Can I realistically do this in the space I have? If the answer is no, look for a smaller, more portable version of that same hobby. Finally, let's consider time, but in a practical way. Some hobbies can be picked up and put down very easily, making them perfect for time confetti. Sketching is a great example. You can do it for 5 minutes while waiting for the bus. Knitting is another. You can knit a few rows while watching a show. Other hobbies require more of a setup and cleanup time, making them better suited for slightly longer dedicated blocks. Painting, for example, requires getting out your paints, your water, your paper, and then cleaning your brushes and putting everything away. It's hard to do that in just 5 minutes, so be honest about the kind of time you have. If your life is truly fragmented, a portable, easy start hobby might be a better fit than one that requires a lot of prep. Okay, the detective work is done. You have your curiosity inventory. You have looked at it through the lens of hands, head, or heart. You have considered whether you need to recharge or release, and you have been honest about the practical barriers of money, space, and time. Now it is time to choose, but remember, you are not choosing your creative soulmate. You are just choosing which taco to try first. Here is your final assignment for this chapter, the art of the test drive. I want you to look at your filtered, annotated list. Now pick one. Just one, don't overthink it. Go with your gut. Choose the one that seems the most interesting and the most achievable for you right now. Once you have chosen it, I want you to schedule a specific 2-hour block in your calendar within the next week. Treat this like a doctor's appointment. It is non-negotiable. This is your appointment with your own creativity. Next, acquire the absolute bare minimum, cheapest supplies you need to do the activity for those 2 hours. If it's sketching, get a single pencil and a small cheap sketchbook. If it's baking, just buy the ingredients for one small batch of cookies. If it's learning the ukulele, maybe you can borrow one from a friend for that afternoon. Then, find a simple, absolute beginner's tutorial for that activity on a platform like YouTube. Something like How to Draw an Apple for Absolute Beginners, or Your First 3 Chords on the Ukulele. During your scheduled 2-hour block, your only job is to follow the instructions and experience the process. Your mission is to be a complete and total beginner. Your mission is to be clumsy, to make mistakes, and to not worry about the outcome at all. The entire purpose of this test drive is to gather data. You are a scientist conducting an experiment, and the subject of the experiment is you. At the end of the 2 hours, I don't want you to look at what you made and judge it. I don't care if your drawing looks like a child's scribble or if your ukulele chords buzz. Instead, I want you to ask yourself one question. How did that feel? Did the 2 hours fly by? Or did they drag? Did you feel frustrated in a good way, like you were solving a puzzle? Or did you feel frustrated in a bad way, like it was just annoying? Did you feel engaged? Did you feel calm? Did you feel energized? The answer to that question is your result. That's the only data that matters. If you felt a spark, a little flicker of joy or engagement, then you know this path is worth walking down a little further. If you felt nothing but boredom or irritation, that is also a fantastic result. You have learned something important about yourself. You can cross that hobby off the list for now with no guilt, and next week you can schedule another test drive with a different hobby from your list. You now have your compass, and you have a plan. You are no longer paralyzed at the crossroads. You have chosen a path not for forever but for now. You have an appointment in your calendar. You are ready to take the first step. But taking that first step, sitting down with that blank page or that new instrument for the very first time, can be the most intimidating moment of all. In the next chapter, we will talk about how to handle that moment. We will learn the art of the awkward, clumsy, beautiful start. Chapter 3. The Art of the Awkward Start. You have arrived. You've followed the compass, you've picked your path, and you've scheduled your test drive. The appointment you made with your creativity is here. The 2-hour block in your calendar is flashing. You have your materials laid out on the table, the cheap sketchbook and pencil, the small block of air-dry clay, the borrowed ukulele. You sit down. And then you are confronted by it. The great and terrible enemy of all creation, the blank page. It might be a literal blank page in a notebook. It might be a pristine white canvas. It might be the silent strings of an instrument that has never been played by you. It might be the blinking cursor on an empty document, pulsing patiently, almost mockingly. In that moment, the potential is infinite, and that is precisely what makes it so terrifying. Every beautiful drawing, every moving story, every wonderful song also started from this exact same point of emptiness. But your mind doesn't focus on that potential. It focuses on the possibility of failure. A voice in your head, that familiar inner critic we've met before, starts to whisper, and then to speak, and then to shout. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to mess this up. This is going to look terrible. Why did you even think you could do this? This feeling of resistance is universal. The author Steven Pressfield gave it a name in his book, The War of Art. He simply calls it resistance, with a capital R. He describes it as a tangible, malevolent force whose only goal is to stop you from doing your creative work. It is the force that fuels procrastination. It is the voice of self-doubt. It is the sudden, urgent need to go clean the kitchen or check your email right at the moment you're supposed to start. It is strongest right at the beginning, right before you make the first mark. Because resistance knows that once you start, once you get into motion, its power over you is diminished. This chapter is your battle plan. It is a set of simple, practical strategies to help you overcome that initial resistance and win the crucial battle against the blank page. We are going to learn how to make starting so easy, so simple, and so unintimidating that you can't help but begin. We are going to learn how to create a physical space that invites you in and makes you want to stay. And most importantly, we're going to learn how to radically shift our goal from creating something perfect to creating something finished, and discover why that is the most powerful secret of all. Let's start with the immediate enemy, that pristine, intimidating blankness. The reason it's so scary is because it represents perfection. Right now, in its blank state, it is flawless. The moment you make a mark, you have, in a sense, ruined that perfection. And the fear of making the wrong mark, a clumsy mark, an ugly mark, is what paralyzes us. So the solution is simple and beautifully counterintuitive. Our first goal is to ruin the perfection as quickly and as deliberately as possible. We must make the first mark, and it doesn't matter what that mark is. This is a strategy you can adapt to any creative hobby. Let's say you're starting with drawing or painting. You're sitting in front of a fresh sheet of paper in your sketchbook. It's so white, so clean. Don't try to draw your subject yet. Don't try to draw anything at all. Just take your pencil or your brush and make a mark, a scribble, a meaningless line, a random splotch of color. Better yet, take a big brush with a light wash of a neutral color, like a very light gray or yellow, and cover the entire page. Now it's no longer a pristine, intimidating white void. It's a surface with something on it. It's been activated. The spell has been broken. You haven't made a mistake. You have prepared your canvas. You have given yourself a starting point. The same principle applies to writing. You open a new document, and that blinking cursor feels like a ticking time bomb of expectation. Don't try to write the brilliant opening sentence of your story. Instead, just get words on the page. Any words, type, "I have no idea what to write about and this is kind of scary," or write a terrible cliché first sentence on purpose. "It was a dark and stormy night." This is a technique that many professional writers use. The novelist Anne Lamott, in her book on writing Bird by Bird, talks about the importance of allowing yourself to write a shitty first draft. The goal of the first draft is not to be good, it's just to exist. Getting something down, anything, gives you material to work with. You cannot edit a blank page, so give yourself the freedom to start badly. Write a single sentence describing the weather outside your window. Type out a list of random words. The goal is to fill that first page with characters, to ruin the intimidating emptiness. What about music? You pick up a guitar and the silence feels deafening. You're afraid the first sound you make will be a horrible, buzzing, out-of-tune mess. Good. Make that mess. Don't try to play a beautiful chord. Just strum all the open strings, make a noise. Press your finger down on a random fret and pluck the string. It will probably sound bad. That's perfect. You have broken the silence, you have started the conversation between you and the instrument. Now you can get on with the business of finding the notes that sound good. This philosophy of making the start ridiculously small and easy is the essence of the 2-minute rule we touched on in the first chapter. Let's expand on that idea. The rule states that any new habit should be scaled down into a version that takes less than 2 minutes to do. The reason this is so powerful is that it bypasses resistance. Your brain can't argue with a 2-minute commitment. The goal, practice guitar for an hour, sounds hard. Your brain will come up with a dozen reasons why you don't have time, but the goal, pick up the guitar and play one chord, is so easy, it's almost harder not to do it. Your initial goal for your new hobby should be a 2-minute version. Your goal is not write a short story, it's open my notebook and write one sentence. Your goal is not learn to paint, it's get out my paints and put one dab of color on the paper. Your goal is not master the piano, it's sit at the piano and play a C scale one time. This is not just a mind trick, it is a profound shift in how you approach the habit. You are not focusing on the outcome. You are focusing on the simple, repeatable act of showing up. And here is the magic of it. Very often, once you have completed your 2-minute task, once you have overcome the friction of starting, you will find you want to keep going. That one sentence might turn into a paragraph, that one dab of paint might lead to you filling the whole page. But even if it doesn't, you have still succeeded. You have kept the promise to yourself. You have cast a vote for your new identity as a writer, a painter, a musician. And doing that consistently, day after day, is how real skill is built. Now let's zoom out from the single moment of starting and talk about the environment you're starting in. Your physical surroundings have a massive impact on your ability to overcome resistance. If your creative tools are packed away in a box in the back of a closet, the amount of energy and willpower it takes to even begin is huge. You have to decide to do it. Go get the box, find a space, unpack everything. There are a dozen points along that chain where you can decide, you know what? This is too much trouble. I'll do it tomorrow. We need to design a space that does the opposite. We need to create a space that makes starting as easy as possible. We need to build a creative nook. As we discussed briefly in the last chapter, you do not need a dedicated studio. What you need is a dedicated space, no matter how small, that your brain learns to associate with your creative practice. This is based on a powerful psychological principle called context-dependent memory, or environmental cues. Simply put, your brain forms strong links between what you do and where you do it. This is why sleep experts tell you not to work in your bed. You want your brain to associate your bed with sleep, not with stress and work emails. We can use this same principle to our advantage. We want to create a space that, when you enter it, signals to your brain, this is where we create, this is where we play. Let's talk about how to build this nook, even if you have very little space. The ideal version is a small, dedicated corner. It could be a small desk in your bedroom or living room. The key is to make it a place you want to be. Get a comfortable chair. Make sure you have good lighting. A simple desk lamp can make a world of difference. Maybe put a small plant on the desk, or pin a few images that inspire you to a corkboard on the wall. And most importantly, leave your tools out and visible. If you are a writer, leave your notebook and favorite pen on the desk. If you are a painter, leave your paints and brushes out. If you play the guitar, get a cheap guitar stand and leave the instrument out of its case in that corner. This principle is called reducing friction. Every single step required to start your hobby is a point of friction. Our goal is to eliminate as many of those points as possible. Think of two aspiring guitar players. Player A keeps their guitar in its case in the closet. Player B keeps their guitar on a stand right next to the chair where they watch TV. Who do you think is going to practice more? It will almost certainly be Player B. Why? Because when they have a spare 5 minutes, they can simply reach over, pick up the guitar and play. There is almost zero friction. Player A, on the other hand, has to make a whole production out of it. They have to consciously decide, get up, open the closet, pull out the case, open the case, take out the guitar. The friction is so high that they will likely only do it when they have a big block of time and a lot of motivation, which is rare. By simply putting your tools where you can see them, you increase the chances of you using them by an order of magnitude. But what if you live in a very small apartment and you truly don't have a corner to spare? Don't worry. You can create a portable nook. The idea is the same, but instead of a dedicated physical space, you create a dedicated ritual. Get a specific box or a bag. This is your creative box. Inside you will keep all the supplies for your hobby, your sketchbook and pencils, your yarn and needles, your writing journal. Then, choose a specific spot in your home where you will do your practice. It could be the left side of the sofa or a particular chair at the kitchen table. The ritual is this. When it's time for your creative practice, you get your box, you take it to your designated spot, you open it, and you begin. When you are finished, everything goes back in the box, and the box is put away. In this case, the box and the ritual become the environmental cue. The act of opening that specific box in that specific spot signals to your brain, it's time to create. It's a studio in a box. Whether you have a dedicated corner or a portable box, the principle is the same. You are creating a ritual and a space that is sacred, a space that is reserved for your joy and your play. You are making it easy for your future self to succeed. You are treating your creative practice with enough respect to give it a home. This simple act can have a profound effect on your ability to show up consistently and overcome that initial resistance. So, you've broken the spell of the blank page, and you've created a space that invites you in. Now we come to the most important mental shift of all. It is the idea that will liberate you from the paralysis of fear and allow you to actually enjoy this process. It is the simple but radical idea of aiming for finished, not perfect. Perfectionism is the ultimate killer of creativity. It is the enemy of done. It's the voice that tells you not to even start because you won't be able to do it perfectly. It's the voice that tells you to give up halfway through because it's not looking as good as you imagined in your head. And it's the voice that tells you to endlessly tweak and revise what you've made, never allowing you to call it finished and move on to the next thing. Perfectionism promises to make your work better, but in reality, it just stops you from working at all. There is a famous and powerful story that perfectly illustrates this point. It's about a ceramics teacher who, on the first day of class, divided his students into two groups. To the group on the left side of the studio, he said, "You will be graded on quantity. At the end of the term, I will bring in a scale and I will weigh all the pots you have made. 50 pounds of pots gets you an A, 40 pounds gets you a B, and so on. The quality of the pots does not matter at all." To the group on the right side of the studio, he said, "You will be graded on quality. You only need to produce one single pot during the entire term. But to get an A, it has to be a perfect pot." What do you think happened? At the end of the term, a curious result emerged. The works of highest quality, the most beautiful and well-crafted pots, all came from the quantity group. The group that was supposedly focused only on quality had produced very little, and what they did produce was not very good. They had spent the whole semester paralyzed, theorizing about what makes a perfect pot, agonizing over every move, and ultimately getting bogged down in the pressure of making their one pot flawless. Meanwhile, the quantity group had just been busy making pots. They were churning them out, experimenting, making messes, learning from their mistakes. While the quality group was stuck in theory, the quantity group was getting their hands dirty. They made hundreds of lumpy, crooked, and ugly pots, and in the process of making all those mistakes, they learned how to make beautiful ones. They didn't aim for quality, but they achieved it through sheer volume of practice. The lesson is profound. Quantity leads to quality. Repetition is the mother of skill. Your goal as a beginner is not to create one perfect masterpiece. Your goal is to fill a sketchbook with hundreds of bad drawings. Your goal is to write a dozen terrible short stories. Your goal is to knit a pile of lumpy, uneven dishcloths, because each one of those failures is not a failure at all. It is a rep. It is practice. It is a lesson, and it is a finished object. You need to experience the feeling of completion. On a neurological level, when we finish a task, no matter how small, our brain releases a small amount of dopamine, the neurotransmitter of reward and motivation. This creates a positive feedback loop. When you finish a small project, your brain gets a little reward which makes you feel good and makes you more likely to want to start another project. It trains your brain to associate your creative hobby with the satisfying feeling of accomplishment. Perfectionism robs you of this reward. When you endlessly tweak a project or abandon it halfway because it's not perfect, you deny your brain that hit of dopamine. You train yourself to associate your hobby with frustration and incompletion. So, your new mantra is, finished, not perfect. How do you put this into practice? You do it by choosing ridiculously small and achievable first projects. Your first project should be something you can complete in a single session, or at most, a few short sessions. The goal is to get from the starting line to the finish line as quickly as possible, just to prove to yourself that you can. Let's brainstorm some first pancake projects, because the first one is always a little messy. If you're learning to draw, don't try to draw a majestic landscape. Draw a single object from your desk, a coffee mug, a pen, an apple. If you're knitting, don't start with a sweater. Start with a simple square dishcloth. It's just one stitch, repeated over and over. If you're writing, don't try to write a novel. Write a 200-word story based on a photo you took on your phone. If you're learning music production, don't try to create a full song. Create a simple 8-second drum loop. If you're baking, don't attempt a complex, multi-layered cake. Bake a small batch of 6 chocolate chip cookies. The goal for each of these projects is simply to finish them. Your drawing of the mug will probably have wobbly lines. Your dishcloth might have some holes in it. Your story might not make a lot of sense. Your drum loop will be basic. Your cookies might be a little burnt on the bottom. Fantastic. You must celebrate this imperfect result. You should hold up your lopsided dishcloth and say, "Look what I did. I started with a string and 2 sticks and now I have this." It's a finished thing. This is not a participation trophy. This is a real victory. You have successfully navigated the entire creative process from idea to completion. You have overcome resistance. You have proven to yourself that you are someone who makes things. That feeling, that knowledge, is infinitely more valuable than a perfect but unfinished project. You now have the complete toolkit for the awkward start. You know how to defeat the blank page by making a deliberate first mess. You know how to design a physical space that reduces friction and invites you in. And you know how to free yourself from the tyranny of perfectionism by aiming for the achievable and empowering goal of finished. The awkward start is not something to be feared or avoided. It is a rite of passage. It is the moment you step out of the stands and onto the playing field. It will feel clumsy. You will feel like you don't know the rules. You will not be graceful. And that is a beautiful thing. It is a sign that you are learning. It is a sign that you are growing. It is a sign that you are brave enough to be a beginner. Every expert you admire was once a clumsy, awkward beginner. The only difference between them and someone who gave up is that they were willing to push through the discomfort of that initial phase. They embraced the art of the awkward start. And now, so can you. In the next chapter, we will explore what comes next, the journey into the messy middle and how to stay motivated when the initial excitement fades and the real work begins. Chapter 4. Embracing the beautiful struggle. The first rush of excitement is a wonderful thing. You survived the awkward start. You followed the instructions for your test drive. You created your first lumpy, imperfect but finished pancake project, and you felt a genuine spark of joy. For a few days, or maybe even a few weeks, everything feels new and exciting. You are learning so much so quickly. Every session brings a new discovery, a small improvement, a little hit of satisfaction. You feel like you've unlocked a secret room in your own life. This is the honeymoon phase of your creative journey. And like all honeymoons, eventually it ends. One day you will sit down in your creative nook, pick up your tools, and it will feel different. It will feel hard. The progress that came so quickly at the beginning will slow to a crawl. The thing you are trying to make will refuse to cooperate. The chords will buzz. The paint will turn to mud. The words will not come. It will feel less like play and more like work. You will feel frustrated, bored, and discouraged. You will look at what you've made and think, "This is terrible. I'm not getting any better. Maybe I'm just not cut out for this after all." Welcome to the messy middle. This is the part of the journey that is rarely shown in the beautiful Instagram montages of creative masters. This is the long, unglamorous uphill walk between the excitement of the trailhead and the glorious view from the summit. This is the place where the vast majority of people quit. They mistake this phase of the journey for the destination. They believe the frustration and the struggle are a sign that they've taken a wrong turn, a sign that they should give up and go home. But I am here to tell you that this struggle is not a sign that you are failing. It is a sign that you are learning. It is a sign that you are pushing yourself beyond your comfort zone, which is the only place where real growth can happen. The messy middle isn't an obstacle on the path, it is the path. And learning to navigate it, to embrace it, and even to find a strange kind of beauty in it is the single most important skill you will develop. This chapter is your guide through that wilderness. We will learn how to face the three great beasts of the messy middle, the loud-mouthed inner critic, the soul-crushing comparison trap, and the frustrating wall of the learning plateau. We will learn not just to survive this phase, but to see it for what it truly is. The beautiful struggle where you are forged from a curious beginner into a resilient maker. Let's start by addressing the loudest voice in the room, your inner critic. We've met this character before. In the beginning, its job was to stop you from starting. Now its job is to convince you to stop. When you are struggling, when your work isn't matching the vision in your head, the critic gets a megaphone. It leans right over your shoulder and starts its relentless monologue. "See, I told you. You're no good at this. You've been at this for weeks, and you still can't draw a straight line. Everyone else is better than you. You're wasting your time. You should be doing something productive, like the laundry. Just give up. It's embarrassing." Fighting this voice head-on is exhausting and often futile. Telling it to shut up is like trying to argue with a heckler in a comedy club. It only gives them more power and makes them louder. So we are going to use a different strategy, a strategy of psychological jujitsu. We are not going to fight the critic. We are going to befriend it, or at least domesticate it. The first step is to personify it. As we touched on briefly before, I want you to give your inner critic a name. It should be a slightly silly, non-threatening name, something like Nigel or Brenda or Bartholomew. The goal here is to create distance. That critical voice is not you. It is not the voice of objective truth. It is just Nigel, your grumpy, anxious, and deeply unhelpful internal roommate. The act of naming it is surprisingly powerful. When that spiral of negative self-talk begins, instead of thinking, "I am a terrible painter," you can now think, "Ah, Nigel is at it again. He gets so dramatic when I'm trying to mix greens." Do you see the shift? It externalizes the voice. It turns it from an all-encompassing identity into a separate, observable entity. You are no longer the one who believes you are terrible. You are the one who is listening to Nigel complain about your painting. This small shift gives you just enough space to breathe and to choose not to take the criticism to heart. You can even talk back to it with a little bit of humor and compassion. Thanks for your input, Nigel. I know you're just trying to protect me from disappointment, but I'm just playing with these paints right now. It's okay. Now that we've given our critic a name, let's get to know its playbook. Critics are rarely original. They tend to rely on a few classic, well-worn scripts. The most common and most venomous of these is the comparison script. This is when Nigel grabs your phone, opens up social media, and forces you to look at the work of other, more experienced people. He points to a stunning, professional-level piece of art and says, "See that? That person is a real artist. Look at their work, and now look at your pathetic little mess. You will never be that good. Why even bother?" Comparison truly is the thief of joy. And in the age of perfectly curated social media feeds, this thief is more powerful than ever. We are constantly exposed to the highlight reels of other people's creative journeys, their finished masterpieces, without any of the context of their struggle, their failures, or their years of practice. We are, as we discussed, comparing our Chapter 1 to their Chapter 20, and it is a rigged game that we will always lose. So how do we combat the comparison script? The most effective method is to control your information diet. You have the power to curate what you see. I want you to go through your social media feeds and be ruthless. Unfollow any account that consistently makes you feel discouraged, inadequate, or jealous. This isn't about being petty, it's about protecting your fragile creative flame. Instead, I want you to actively seek out and follow accounts that do the opposite. Look for artists who share their process, not just their finished work. Find people who talk about their struggles, who show their ugly sketches and their failed attempts. Follow fellow beginners who are on the same journey as you. You want to transform your feed from a gallery of intimidating masterpieces into a supportive workshop full of peers and mentors. Another powerful technique is to reframe your view of a master's work. The next time you see a piece of art that makes you feel that pang of "I'll never be that good," I want you to consciously shift your thinking. Instead of seeing it as evidence of your own inadequacy, see it as proof of what is possible. Think to yourself, "Wow, look what the human hand is capable of. Look at what years of dedicated practice can lead to." See it not as a judgment, but as an inspiration. That artist was also a beginner once. Their incredible skill is a testament to the power of showing up, of embracing the messy middle, and of not quitting. They are not a different species from you. They are just further down the same road. The critic's second favorite script is the futility script. This one sounds like this. "Okay, so maybe you're enjoying this a little bit, but what's the actual point? You're not going to make any money from this. You're not going to become famous. You're just splashing paint around in your spare time. It's a waste. You're just a hobbyist." This script preys on our culture's obsession with productivity and external validation. The antidote to this script is to reconnect deeply and intentionally with your why. Why did you start this journey in the first place? Go back to the feeling you had in Chapter 1. The goal was never to become a professional artist. The goal was to find joy in making. The goal was to give yourself a sanctuary from the demands of the productive world. Your creative practice is not your job. It is the antidote to your job. Its pointlessness is its greatest strength. To reinforce this, you need to actively celebrate the process, not just the product. I want you to start a new kind of journal, a process journal. At the end of each creative session, take just 2 minutes to write down the answer to these questions. What was one moment during this session that felt good? What did I learn today? Notice that neither of these questions is about the quality of the final product. Maybe the moment that felt good was the simple feeling of a sharp pencil on smooth paper. Maybe it was when you got lost for 10 minutes just watching colors blend together. Maybe the thing you learned was that a certain technique doesn't work, which is just as valuable as learning one that does. This journal will become your personal book of evidence. When Nigel starts whispering the futility script, you can open your journal and read it. You will have pages of proof that this practice is not pointless. It is a source of calm, a source of learning, and a source of small, consistent joys. You are building a case for the value of your own experience, independent of any external outcome. The final script we'll discuss is the imposter script. This one often kicks in when you start to get a little bit better. You might share something you made with a friend and they'll say, "Wow, you're a real writer." And instead of feeling good, a wave of panic washes over you. Nigel pipes up, "A writer? Don't be ridiculous. You're not a writer. You're just a fraud who is playing with words. Real writers have book deals and agents. You're an imposter, and at any moment, everyone is going to find out." The feeling of being an imposter is incredibly common among creative people, even highly successful ones. The author Maya Angelou once said, "I have written 11 books, but each time I think, oh, they're going to find out now. I've run a game on everybody, and they're going to find me out." If Maya Angelou felt like an imposter, it's safe to say that we will too. The way to deal with this is to change your label. The words artist, writer, or musician can feel very heavy, freighted with expectation. So let's take that pressure off. You don't have to call yourself a painter. You can just be a person who is learning to paint. You are not an imposter. You are a student. You are an apprentice. You are an explorer. These words grant you the grace to be imperfect. A student is expected to make mistakes. That is how they learn. An explorer is expected to get lost sometimes. That is how they discover new things. By adopting the identity of a learner, you give yourself permission to be in the messy middle. You're not pretending to be a master. You are honestly and bravely embodying the role of a beginner. And there is no shame in that. In fact, it is a position of great power and freedom. Now that we have a plan for dealing with our inner critic, let's talk about the external reality of the messy middle, the learning plateau. A plateau is a period where you feel like you are putting in the effort. You are showing up to practice, but you are not seeing any improvement. It feels like you are stuck, running in place. This is often the point where frustration boils over and the temptation to quit is immense. The first thing you must understand is that learning is not a smooth, linear upward curve. It is a series of growth spurts followed by flat plateaus. This is how our brains work. When you are learning a new skill, there is an initial period of rapid improvement as you grasp the basics. Then your brain needs time to consolidate what it has learned, to move the skill from conscious, effortful thought into a more automatic, subconscious process. This period of consolidation feels like a plateau. You are not getting worse, and you may not be getting visibly better, but crucial work is happening beneath the surface. Your brain is building and strengthening new neural pathways. It is like a computer downloading a large software update in the background. The screen might not be changing, but a major upgrade is in progress. Knowing this can change your entire relationship with plateaus. A plateau is not a sign that you have reached your limit. It is a normal, healthy, and necessary part of the learning process. That said, staying on a plateau for too long can be demoralizing. So, what can we do to navigate them and eventually break through to the next growth spurt? The key is to change the way you practice. When we are beginners, we can get better just by mindlessly repeating an activity. But to move to the next level, we need to shift from simple practice to what researchers call deliberate practice. Deliberate practice is not about just putting in the hours. It is about practicing with a specific goal, with intense focus, and with a system for feedback. It was a concept developed by psychologist Anders Ericsson, who studied top performers in fields from music to chess to surgery. He found that what separated the experts from the amateurs was not the amount of time they practiced, but the quality of that practice. Let's break down how you can apply deliberate practice to your hobby. First, you need to identify a specific small area of weakness. Don't just say, "I'm bad at drawing." That's too vague. Get specific. Is it drawing hands? Is it understanding perspective? Is it shading? Pick one single thing, let's say it's drawing hands. Second, you need to find resources that focus on that specific micro skill. Find a tutorial online titled, "How to Draw Simple Cartoon Hands." Look for a chapter in a drawing book about the anatomy of the hand. The goal is to isolate the skill and learn the theory behind it. Third, you design an exercise or a drill to work on that skill exclusively. You don't try to draw a full person. You fill an entire page in your sketchbook with nothing but hands. Draw your own hand in different positions. Draw hands from photographs. At first, they will be terrible. That doesn't matter. Your goal is not to produce a beautiful drawing. Your goal is to do the reps, to build the muscle memory, to teach your brain and your hand how to work together to represent this complex form. You are focused, you are intentional, and you are working on the very edge of your ability. This kind of practice is hard. It is not as relaxing as just doodling, but it is incredibly effective at breaking through plateaus. Another powerful strategy for plateaus is to seek new input. Sometimes we get stuck because we are only seeing the problem from one angle. We need to shake things up. If you've been learning from one specific online teacher, try finding another one with a different style. Their way of explaining a concept might suddenly make it click for you. If you're a writer and you're feeling stuck, go to an art museum. If you're a painter, listen to a piece of instrumental music. Exposing your brain to new and different kinds of creative stimuli can forge unexpected connections and give you a fresh perspective on your own work. Finally, one of the most important tools for navigating frustration is the conscious use of play. When you are deep in the struggle, when you are trying so hard to get something right and it just keeps going wrong, the pressure can become immense. The joy drains away and is replaced by a grim determination. This is a danger zone. In these moments, you must give yourself permission to abandon the goal and just play. What does this look like? It means doing something with your materials just for the sake of it, with zero expectation of a good result. If you're a painter, take a canvas and just make a mess. Finger paint like you were a child. Use colors you would never normally use together. Try to paint with your non-dominant hand. If you're a writer, try writing a deliberately terrible poem. Write a story where every sentence starts with the letter T. If you're a musician, try to play your instrument in a way it wasn't intended. Make weird noises. The goal of this kind of play is to completely lower the stakes. When there is no possibility of failure, because you are not even trying to succeed, the pressure evaporates. And in that state of relaxed, curious play, you will often stumble upon surprising breakthroughs. You might discover a new color combination, a new way of phrasing a sentence, or a new sound that you can incorporate into your more serious work later. Play is not a waste of time. It is the research and development department of your creative practice. Embracing the beautiful struggle is a profound act of self-compassion and resilience. It is about learning to be your own best coach instead of your own worst critic. It is about understanding that progress is not a straight line, but a messy, beautiful, looping dance. It's about finding the courage to show up not just when it's easy and fun, but especially when it's hard and frustrating. Your final assignment for this chapter is a simple but powerful one. I call it the small wins jar. I want you to find an empty jar, a box, or any container. Keep it in your creative nook. And I want you to get a small notepad and a pen and put them next to the jar. From now on, at the end of every single creative session, no matter how short or how frustrating it was, I want you to find one small win, one tiny victory. And you are going to write it on a slip of paper, date it, and put it in the jar. What counts as a small win? Anything. It could be, I finally figured out how to mix a nice shade of purple. Or, I wrote one sentence that I really liked. Or, I practiced for 10 minutes even though I really didn't feel like it. Or, I tried a new technique and it was a complete disaster, but I learned what not to do. Even showing up is a win. On your most tired, uninspired days, your win might simply be, I sat down and picked up my pencil. This is not a trivial exercise. This is the act of training your brain to see progress even when it feels invisible. Over the weeks and months, that jar will begin to fill up, and there will come a day, deep in the messy middle when you are feeling utterly defeated. You will be convinced that you are a failure and that you have made no progress at all. On that day, I want you to take your jar, dump all the little slips of paper out onto your desk, and read them. You will be holding in your hands the physical, undeniable proof of your journey. You will see hundreds of small steps, hundreds of lessons learned, hundreds of moments of showing up. You will see, in your own handwriting, the story of your own resilience. And that evidence will be more powerful than any discouraging word from your inner critic. It will be the fuel you need to put one more slip of paper in the jar, and then another and another. It will be the proof that you know how to embrace the struggle, and that you are and have always been making beautiful progress. Chapter 5. The Rhythm of Making. We have traveled a long way together. We started with the simple act of giving ourselves permission, of finding the courage to listen to that quiet inner voice that wanted to make something. We navigated the overwhelming crossroads of choice with our creative compass and embarked on an awkward but brave first start. We have just come through the wilderness of the messy middle, learning how to tame our inner critics and find beauty in the struggle. If you have walked this path, if you have shown up even when it was hard, you are no longer a person who is merely thinking about a creative hobby. You are a person who is doing it. You are a maker. Now, we arrive at a new phase of the journey. This final chapter is not about how to start or how to survive. It is about how to live. It is about how to take this fledgling activity, this thing you do in fits and starts, and weave it so deeply into the fabric of your life that it becomes a source of sustainable, long-term joy and fulfillment. It's about moving from a sporadic hobby to a consistent practice. It's about discovering the profound and often surprising ways that this practice will change not just how you spend your free time, but how you see the entire world. And it's about learning how to share your journey in a way that enriches both you and others. This is where we learn to create a rhythm of making that will resonate through every part of our lives. The first and most important shift we need to make is a shift in language and mindset. We are going to gently let go of the word hobby and replace it with the word practice. This might seem like a small change, but it is a meaningful one. The word hobby can feel a little bit flimsy, a little bit optional. It's something you do in your spare time if you're in the mood, if you feel inspired. It's dependent on fleeting feelings. The word practice, on the other hand, implies something deeper. It suggests intention, consistency, and a sense of commitment, not to an outcome but to the process itself. You have a yoga practice, a meditation practice, or a gratitude practice. It is something you return to, again and again, not because you are always motivated to do it, but because you know it is good for you. It is a pillar of your well-being. Establishing a creative practice is not about becoming a rigid, disciplined machine. It is not about forcing yourself to create for 2 hours every single day. That is a recipe for burnout. It is about creating a gentle, consistent rhythm, a personal ritual that becomes a sanctuary in your life. It's about making your creative time as non-negotiable as brushing your teeth, but as joyful as meeting a good friend for coffee. The most powerful tool for building this rhythm is the creation of a ritual. We've talked about creating a physical space, a creative nook that signals to your brain it's time to create. A ritual is the next layer of that. It is a short series of actions you perform every single time before you begin your practice. The purpose of a ritual is to automate the transition from your everyday busy mind to your focused creative mind. It's a bridge. It takes the guesswork and the need for willpower out of the equation. Let's design a ritual. Your ritual should be simple, short, and engage your senses. It should be something you enjoy. It might look something like this. You go to your creative nook. You put on a specific playlist of music you only listen to when you are creating. You make yourself a specific cup of tea, a special flavor that becomes your creativity tea. You light a candle or a stick of incense. You take 3 deep, slow breaths, and then you begin. The whole ritual might take only 5 minutes, but it is incredibly powerful. Why? Because of the power of psychological association. After you perform this ritual just a few times, your brain will build a strong connection between those sensory inputs. the music, the taste, the smell, and the state of creative focus. Soon, the moment you put on that playlist and smell that tea, your brain will automatically start to shift gears. The ritual becomes a Pavlovian bell for your creativity. It signals that the rest of the world, with its worries and to-do lists, can be set aside for a little while. This space, this time, is sacred. This simple 5-minute ritual can be more effective than waiting an hour for inspiration to strike. You are not waiting for inspiration. You are inviting it in. You are telling it where and when to find you. Now, how do you fit this ritual and practice into your life? There are two main approaches: the scheduler and the opportunist. The scheduler is someone who thrives on structure. They will look at their week and block out specific recurring appointments for their creative practice. It might be every Tuesday and Thursday evening from 8 to 9 p.m. It might be every Saturday morning from 7 to 8 a.m. They put it in their calendar and they treat it like any other important appointment. For most people, especially when building a new habit, this is the most effective method. It removes the daily decision-making process. The time is already set. You just have to show up. The opportunist, on the other hand, is someone who prefers flexibility. They don't have a fixed schedule, but instead, they become masters at recognizing and seizing small pockets of creative opportunity throughout their day. They might finish their work 30 minutes early and decide, this is a perfect time for a quick session. They might be waiting for a friend and use those 10 minutes to do a quick sketch in their pocket notebook. This approach requires more mindfulness and a strong internal sense of commitment, but it can feel more freeing for some people. You can experiment with which style works best for you. You might even find a hybrid approach is best. Perhaps you schedule one longer session on the weekend, and then you stay open to opportunistic time confetti sessions during the week. The key is consistency over quantity. A consistent practice of 15 minutes, 4 times a week, is far more powerful and sustainable than a single heroic 4-hour session once a month. The rhythm of making is like a heartbeat. It's the steady, gentle pulse that keeps the practice alive. Once you establish this rhythm, something remarkable begins to happen. Your creative practice stops being a siloed activity that you do in your little corner of the world. It begins to leak out. It starts to color and change the way you perceive everything. This is the ripple effect of creativity, and it is where the deepest transformations occur. This happens because of a beautiful feature of our brains called neuroplasticity. As we've touched upon, this is the brain's ability to reorganize itself by forming new neural connections. When you consistently engage in a creative practice, you are not just learning a skill. You are literally rewiring your brain. You are training it to pay attention in new ways. And this new way of seeing doesn't just turn off when you put your tools down. If your practice is drawing or painting, you will start to see the world like an artist. A simple walk in the park becomes a masterclass in light and shadow. You'll notice the subtle variations of green in the leaves of a tree. You'll observe the way the late afternoon sun casts long dramatic shadows on the grass. You'll see the world not just as a collection of objects, but as a composition of shapes, colors, and textures. Your ordinary world becomes extraordinarily beautiful. If your practice is writing, you will start to hear the world like a writer. You'll pay more attention to the way people talk, the specific words they choose, their unique rhythms of speech. You'll find yourself crafting more interesting sentences in your own head just to describe the scene at the grocery store. You'll become a more attentive observer of the human condition, noticing the small, quiet moments of connection or loneliness that you previously overlooked. If your practice is music, you will start to listen to the world like a musician. The songs you hear on the radio will no longer be just a wall of sound. You'll start to deconstruct them in your mind, hearing the distinct bass line, the harmony of the backing vocals, the rhythm of the drums. You'll notice the sonic texture of your environment, the rhythmic dripping of a faucet, the percussive sound of your own footsteps, the melody in a bird's song. This heightened sense of awareness is a form of everyday mindfulness. Your creative practice becomes a training ground for being more present in your own life. It pulls you out of the anxious chatter of your mind, the endless loop of worries about the past and anxieties about the future, and it grounds you firmly in the sensory reality of the present moment. This is a profound gift. The joy of making something is wonderful, but the joy of seeing the world with the fresh eyes of a maker every single day is a transformation. This transformation extends beyond just perception. The skills you develop in your practice begin to serve you in all areas of your life. The act of creating is, at its core, an act of problem solving. How do I fix this part of the drawing that doesn't look right? How do I find a better word for this sentence? How do I transition from this chord to that one smoothly? Every creative session is filled with dozens of these small problems. And as you get better at solving them, you are strengthening your general problem-solving muscle. You become more flexible in your thinking, more open to experimenting with new solutions, and more resilient in the face of setbacks. This is a skill that is invaluable, whether you are dealing with a challenge at work, a conflict in a relationship, or just trying to fix a leaky faucet at home. Furthermore, the journey of taking something from a blank page to a finished object, of navigating the messy middle and not giving up, builds a deep and authentic form of confidence called self-efficacy. This is the belief in your own ability to meet a challenge and see it through. It's a quiet, solid confidence that comes not from praise or external validation, but from your own lived experience. You know you can handle frustration because you have done it before. You know you can learn new things because you have taught yourself a skill. This resilience, this knowledge that you are a capable person who can create something from nothing, is a form of inner strength that you will carry with you into every room you enter. As you grow in your practice and in your confidence, you will inevitably face a new question. Should I share my work with others? In our hyper-connected world, the pressure to post everything online can be immense. The desire for validation, for likes and comments, is a powerful human drive. But this is a crucial moment, and it must be navigated with great care to protect the intrinsic joy that you have worked so hard to cultivate. My strongest advice is this. In the beginning, keep your practice sacredly private. For the first 3 months, 6 months, maybe even the first year, create only for yourself. Think of your creativity as a tiny, tender seedling. It needs to grow strong roots in a safe, protected environment before it is exposed to the unpredictable weather of public opinion. You need to fall in love with the process for its own sake, not for the applause of others. You are doing this for you. Your joy must be the primary fuel source. If you introduce the fuel of external validation too early, your brain can get lazy. It can start to prefer the quick, easy high of a like over the deeper, more sustained satisfaction of the process itself. Your practice can morph from a sanctuary into a performance, and the joy can wither. When you do feel ready to share, it is essential to do so with a clear intention. Ask yourself, why do I want to share this? If the answer is, to get validation and prove that I'm good, I would urge you to wait a little longer. Their healthier intention is, to connect with others who share my passion, or to share a piece of my journey in the hopes that it might inspire someone else. When you do share, I encourage you to share your process, not just your polished final products. Share a picture of your messy desk. Talk about a technique you struggled with and finally figured out. Show a before and after of a piece, including the ugly early stages. By sharing your beautiful struggle, you do 2 wonderful things. First, you connect with people on a much more authentic level. You show them that creativity is not magic. It is a journey with ups and downs just like theirs. Second, you protect yourself from the pressure of perfection. You are signaling that you value the journey, not just the destination. This invites a community of support and encouragement rather than a gallery of critics. Finding a community of fellow makers can be a wonderful way to sustain your practice for the long haul. This could be a local class or workshop. It could be a low-key online forum for beginners. It could be as simple as finding one creative buddy, a friend with whom you can share your progress and your struggles in a safe, non-judgmental way. Seeing that others are navigating the same challenges is incredibly validating. Sharing in each other's small wins creates a powerful sense of camaraderie. The rhythm of making is often a solo dance, but knowing there are others dancing along with you can make the music all the sweeter. We have reached the end of our book, but it is, I hope, the true beginning of your creative life. We started with a whisper, a quiet wish to make something. We gave that whisper a voice. We gave it a space to play, and we gave it the resilience to keep going when it was hard. We learned that the goal was never to create a perfect painting or a flawless song. The goal was to rediscover the joyful, curious, and creative child that has been living inside you all along. The true masterpiece you are creating is not the thing you make with your hands. It is the person you become through the process of making. You are becoming a more observant, more resilient, more mindful, and more joyful human being. The finished objects, the drawings, the poems, the sweaters, they are just the beautiful souvenirs you pick up along the way. The real prize is the journey itself. The prize is a life lived with a little more color, a little more music, a little more wonder. The prize is the steady, life-affirming rhythm of making. This audiobook may be ending, but our conversation doesn't have to. The creative journey is a long and winding one, full of beautiful struggles and unexpected discoveries. I explore these ideas and share new waves of inspiration every week, helping you navigate the process along the way. I hope you'll join me there, so we can continue to explore this journey together. Now go make something.